Did you hear recording in progress too?
I certainly did.
That's good. Sometimes it
Who
says,
is this other person?
well, yeah. Who's the third eye? Well, they're probably listening to us anyway. So they're, whoever is assigned to this call,
Exactly.
whoever's assigned to this call is probably gonna have the time of his life, right? Okay, let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to a new video. Today I'm here with Christiana, who did a juice fast, and we're going to talk about her experience and a lot of more things that are very interesting. Christiana, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Nathan. It's lovely to be here. I'm so honored that you've invited me to have this chat, and I'm excited for it.
That's good. That's good. Well, I'm honored that you want to do this with me. And I think I said
Mm.
that before because, of course, we did the Juice Fest together almost 3 years ago now. Time flies.
Wow, three
3 years.
years ago. Gosh,
Yeah. Almost like at the
feels a
middle
bit
of the year.
longer, actually.
It does?
It does to me. Yeah, feels
Oh,
a bit longer.
so a
So
lot.
much changes, after doing a juice fast, a juice cleanse.
Mhm.
It's like, life kind of speeds up somehow, or time seems to speed up.
I've noticed that too. Yeah, time really speeds up. Yeah. Now that you mention it, it does seem like longer than 3 years ago, but it is almost 3 years ago. We're getting close to that. Do you remember why you did a Juice Fest?
Mm. Well, my journey has been, like many people, has been quite a long one. I always had digestive issues, and it led me down the path of sort of being told by different, doctors to do like the paleo, keto diet. I went for loads of different tests. I had skin issues. Just really just not feeling at all well. Horrendous bloating and all the rest of it. I won't go into all
Yeah.
the details. But yeah, needless to say, I'd tried everything, and I remember I was doing the keto diet, and I'd come down one morning and I'd put a hot pot on overnight with some chicken feet in it
Oh,
to
wow.
make bone broth.
Yeah.
And I came down and I opened the kitchen door and it absolutely stank. And I looked at this hot pot, opened the lid, and all I saw were these three chicken feet
Mhm.
stuck in the lard, stuck
Well,
in the fat on the top.
yeah.
And in that moment, it was like a light bulb. And I was like, what the heck am I doing here? This is, I think I've got to eat that. And I really don't want to. It's making me feel sick just looking at it.
Hmm.
And from there, I discovered that day, in fact, because my body had been craving fruit and I was being told, don't even think about it, don't go down that route. And yeah, it was the catalyst for me to find Dr. Robert Morse. And then ultimately, I found you, Nathan,
Yeah.
after seeing others who had done juice fasting, yourself in particular. And I loved the fact that you really had a thorough understanding of the process of juice cleansing. You're going into it, not sort of just diving in. It's more of a sort of a very mature approach
Mhm.
to the juice fast, and that's why I reached out to you. I thought, no, this is the guy I'd like to have somebody accompany me because in my work as a therapist, I know how lovely it is to have that sort of support and somebody alongside you
Yeah.
as you do these journeys of healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that was how I decided to do a juice cleanse, particularly to heal the gut issues
Right.
that I was experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. And those were quite severe, right?
They were.
Yeah. Do you remember your
It's
first
just
day?
awful. It was the most bizarre thing, wasn't it? The first day of my juice cleanse was the most difficult. Oh, you've got the watermelon.
Yeah, I got
I
it.
had some this morning. It was I think I got to lunchtime and I just had watermelon juice the whole day. And I was hit by the most horrendous detox of my
Yeah.
life.
Hmm.
Just this incredible migraine headache. I thought I was going to throw up. It was just awful. I could only lie down. Um, and part of me was like, well, maybe this is God saying, this is just
Yeah.
not right for you. Maybe you should step out now. Can
Yeah.
you hear the voice of the
Yeah.
ego?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm second. I stick this. I bought all those watermelons.
Yeah.
I'm gonna crack on. And so, and with your help, Nathan, I could reach out to you, and you were like, well, you know, we don't know how this is going to pan out. That's why it's good to have support,
Yeah.
because you're never sure of an individual's process. They're all different.
Uh,
And so, yeah, made it through that first day. And from there on,
yeah.
honestly, it was quite plain sailing.
Yeah.
Only until about halfway through where I was a bit sort of, I don't know, it's kind of, I think it's more of a battle of the mind that takes place midway through. And then once you come through that, it's, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, we'll get to that in a
water
little
under.
bit. That was an interesting episode. So I
Okay.
wanted to go to that first day because your first day was like, well, basically the test of tests. Basically, I still remember you saying like, "Well, should I quit or should I not quit?" Like, and then
Yeah.
collected yourself and you went on. And after that, it indeed was smooth sailing. And that brings me to like the next question. A lot of people are always interested in like, what is it like to just drink juices for such an extended period of time? Because
Mm.
I can't exactly remember the days, but I think you went like definitely over 90. Like you went close to 100, right? Was you a little longer?
I always remember 101 Dalmatians.
101
101 it
Dalmatians.
was.
That's the one. That's the one. 101. Okay, so
Yeah.
101 days of just drinking juice. Like, what was that like?
Yeah. I mean, I was a bit worried at first because I do love my food. I do love an evening meal. Do you know what I mean? I really do look forward to that.
Yeah.
So I was very concerned about putting that down. I also, in my own journey, have a history of eating issues, which
Yeah.
most of us do, to be honest.
Almost.
But from childhood, I did have a bit of a sort of a tendency towards either restriction or binge eating.
Mm,
That was a bit of my story.
yeah.
Um, and after me saying I'm not going to get personal in this interview, here
Yeah,
here
yeah,
we
yeah.
are.
You can go as far as you want. It's
Just
all good. It's all good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and yeah, so those were a bit of my concerns and the concerns of other people as well, like, oh, here she goes again,
Yeah.
etc. But um, it was surprisingly easy, and
Mhm.
I actually felt full and satisfied. And the key thing for me was I started eliminating with ease. And
Yeah.
I was like, I thought the opposite was going to happen. I thought I was going to explode
Uh,
but actually the opposite. Everything started moving more smoothly.
yeah.
And as a result of that, I think, because when you're backed up inside, it causes you to want to eat food to kind of push it down or the parasites, whatever. So I think that really helped me, and yeah, I I didn't experience the hunger that I thought I was going to.
Right, yeah, yeah. Because I remember very well, this is so interesting that you mentioned it, like eating and stuffing things down. We had a particular talk where you were like, is this not gonna make me more constipated because I'm not getting fibers and things
Yes.
like that? And then like I still remember like at the time I still did like WhatsApp contact and stuff with my clients before it was like a group thing. So for us it was one-on-one. I still remember getting your WhatsApp messages like, I'm so happy I'm going to the toilet. I'm so happy it's coming out. Like you were like celebrating every single day.
Yes, it was joyful. It's funny, isn't it? I think we can kind of predict before we start something that's a bit scary, we kind of predict the worst case scenario
Yeah,
and almost expect that. But it was a lovely surprise for me that actually, no, my fears were ungrounded,
yeah,
that my body was seemed to be thanking me.
yeah, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Throughout
Not only physically, but spiritually as well. Like it was, once you get through the first sort of 3 days, there's something
it's so sweet.
deeply beautiful. Yeah. There's a beautifulness about it. It's kind of you surrender somehow.
Hmm.
And it's almost an opening, I found anyway, for a sense of peace
Yeah, yeah,
to
it's the
come
peace
in.
piece. Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. No matter how many times you do it, it always happens. But the first time is
Yes.
like It's the first time, so it's magical, right? And you never did any juice fasting
Mm,
before that, right? It was your first time ever.
mm.
Yeah.
First time ever. Yeah. I've been eating a lot of fruit, um, and salads, but prior to that, yeah, no
No.
other cleanses or anything.
So you were like, full into the storm basically with the juicing. Like you didn't know what to expect. You didn't know.
Mhm.
How did you feel about that? Were you like a little anxious about that, or were you like a little worried, or what was going on there?
I think a bit of well, actually, I'm quite an adventurous person, and kind of that's how I approach things a bit. Is kind of like I quite like the adventurousness of it.
You definitely.
So there was a bit of excitement, and I think I'd really committed to it before I started. So that kind of I had that mentality, right, I'm doing this. I've decided. So come what may, I'm in this.
Yeah.
So body, mind, soul, you're either coming along or you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a typical characteristic of you that I got to know as well. Like you're full into everything. But that's
Yes.
a key thing with the fast that you're not afraid of it and you really like go full into it and just surrender to the process like you so beautifully described with like the peacefulness and the calmness.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
beautiful.
Once you've decided, yeah, and you get through that first hurdle, I think
Mm.
whenever your first test comes, if you can get through that,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, okay, I've really decided here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings a peace, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Beautiful said. So you already mentioned a couple things with your body that you started eliminating and things like, do you still
Mhm.
remember what happened to your body during your juice fest and how you felt physically?
I was sleeping better.
Hmm.
I did experience sometimes of feeling like I couldn't eliminate.
Hmm.
I'll
Yeah.
be honest about that.
Yeah.
But for me, I did use some colonic hydrotherapy at some points, which helped me.
Yeah.
Not everyone agrees with that, but it's been helpful to me in my journey.
Yeah.
Um, I also know that those periods of sort of struggle to eliminate were usually because the body was doing something
Hmm.
and cleansing deeply, and then at some point it would release if I was
Yep.
able to just trust it a bit.
Go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Let go. Yeah, so yeah, that was. I can't remember what you asked me now. I've gone off track, I think.
What happened to your body? Like, I believe you lost a lot of weight as well, right?
I lost a bit of weight. I didn't lose loads. I did get a bit of criticism for that
From
from
the
people, like, oh my God,
yeah.
she's, what's she doing? That was probably the biggest struggle for me, to be honest, was the opinions of others all the time.
Yeah.
My housemates at the time, I was sharing a house and they're kind of like, oh my God, she's bonkers, she's really got a bad eating disorder.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to kind of just muster through that and actually not try to explain to everybody, and justify why I'm doing it. It was just, in a way, it was really helpful for me because it gave me a bit of inner strength when it comes to people pleasing.
Hmm.
You're kind of like, well, no, I've decided that this is in my best interests, and that's enough for me.
Exactly. Exactly. Was that hard to
Mm.
deal with that, the criticism and people and like because that's all around you. Like you basically stop eating, you take yourself out of that. Like, how is that?
Um, it's even that's part of the healing of the juice fast, I think, is to sort of go against the grain and have to face other people's opinions. The healing that I do with clients now and in my own journey as well is to rather go within, and trust the inner still small voice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and often I find in the healing journey we're asked more and more to do that, but then the resistance from outside it gets even greater, and you have to grow even more strongly uh, in deciding for you
Yeah.
what's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And did you feel like on your juice fest that you also had like some personal struggles that you had to overcome, or some personal growth that happened that probably would not have happened if you hadn't done the juice fast? Of course, you already talked about like the social aspect and growing
Yeah.
strong there. Are there any
Yeah.
other aspects?
Well, I mean, part of that of the juice fast, and we'll get into this a bit later, and Nathan, I think, is that when we do put down, especially food, when
Yeah.
we do put down food,
Mhm.
um, it tends to allow room for things that have been stuffed down to start coming up.
Yeah.
And although I'd been doing an awful lot of inner work, I'd done my training as a therapist a couple of years before, and been through a lot personally, and done lots of inner work over the years. Um, it takes you to the next layer of the onion. It takes you a bit deeper. So I was fortunate though, because I do have a lot of tools, that I've acquired over time that help me to see that not as a negative thing, but as oh my goodness, great, another insight is coming. You know what I mean? Uh, I think I experienced lots of insights in the juice cleanse, like these just little moments of clarity as my body became clearer.
Yeah.
I was given more clarity over the past, the present, and even the future as well. More sense of direction and connecting with who I am.
Yeah. Do you feel your connection
Yeah.
to God, because you strongly believe in God? Like that's how you. Everybody has a different name for this thing, but I think we all name the same thing in there in the end anyway. But your connection to God, like, do you feel that changed as
Yeah.
well as you're talking about this? Like,
I think yes, I've been on I mean, that would be a video in itself, I think.
who knows, one day.
Is the spiritual journey. I absolutely felt that, the wonderful spiritual connection during that juice cleanse, and how wonderful it is to put down all your crutches and
Yeah.
turn to God, and to be listening. I think that's what the juice cleanse did for me. It gave me a space to really, really listen, as opposed to, lots of things going on in my mind, and then eating, and then the juice cleanse kind of puts a pause on things somehow, if you're willing to let it,
Yeah.
and it allows you to really deeply be a listener.
Yeah. It does. Well said. Well said.
What you're going to say, pardon?
Yeah, what? What did you say? Can you repeat that? No. Um,
Yes, exactly.
like you mentioned, like the eating and everything, and the history with that. Like, you don't have to go into any details that you don't want to, but
Yeah.
how did your relationship to food change after the juice fast? Like, because we focused on that during the
Mm.
juice fast too, and it was something that
Mm.
I remember all your insights. Some of you shared, and they were quite big, and many of them, like, eventually you were able to trace back way back in the past. But how did your relationship to food change after your juice fast, and what does it look like now? No
Yeah.
need to, like, what do you eat, but rather, what's your relationship to food?
Yeah. Um, how did it change? I think it's gave me more power, uh, more agency, in my relationship with food. So, it's almost, Nathan. As a young girl, I learned that food was the substitute parent
Ah,
for
yeah.
me.
Okay.
This was the one who could step in when I wasn't able to get what I needed
Uh,
from my actual parents. And what the juice fast did was, it sort of made me step in as the good parent to myself, to that inner child now.
mhm.
And although I understood her cravings, her wanting to return to the old crutch,
Yeah.
the juice fast, with your support, gave me that agency as a parent, to make a good decision on behalf of that inner child, and to allow her the space then to really sort of allow up what she couldn't process from the past, um, which is still, this is the work of a lifetime, in fact, and it's the work
Ex-
I do with people now.
Yeah. So
Um,
if we would summarize that in a very simple sentence, it literally is that instead of stuffing away what you didn't want to feel with food, you started confronting it, and yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And sometimes we don't even realize we are stuffing things away with food. Do you
yes,
know what I mean? Like
that is
suddenly you're aware, like when you do the juice fast, oh, goodness, I was really eating quite a lot, or I was eating at times when I didn't need to be, or,
yeah,
because when you come to the end of the juice fast, you're like, how did I ever eat all these meals? You
exactly, yeah,
know?
yeah. Especially like all those impulses that you notice that you other things you would use to stuff away things or numb things. Like it becomes very apparent when you take away the food thing, like how connected that is to everything around you socially and how connected it is to other things, but also like how many other things you used in the same way. That was for me a big shock. And I remember you mentioned a couple times during some of our calls and stuff that you were like, I can't believe I'm doing this or I'm doing that or I'm seeing it in such a different light. It's really interesting.
Yes. It's coming back to me now. I remember, do you remember I'd ordered some daily green boost?
I wanted to go there. I wanted to go there. That was I remember that.
Oh, we could go there. Yeah, I think I was using that as a
Huh?
substitute, and I was,
Mm.
I was eating it by the spoon, actually. I mean, it is delicious,
It's
but
good.
I haven't had it for ages now. I need to.
I
I
think
wonder if it is actually delicious or it's just.
yeah, I think they discontinued it because like it was like the level
Oh,
of toxicity or something or whatever. But you were spooning that. I remember that. Like, and eventually you dropped it, and then you read. And this was, I think, in that middle part that you mentioned, right? Where you had.
yes,
What was that about that middle part? Like, do you remember what that was about? Because there was like a battle inside of you about, I think, letting go,
yeah,
whatever. And the daily green boost was part of
yeah,
it too. You were spooning that daily, I believe. It was daily green boost at that.
yes. I think look, I always approach things like I think there is a physiological element and there is a psychological, spiritual element going on, So maybe part of it was that, look, I had gone quite a long time, maybe 50, 60 days, probably 60, 70 days actually. And maybe that was sort of, um, maybe I was craving some mineral that I'd already been depleted from, you know, prior to the juice fast. I don't know. That's only my summation, but I think in that middle phase, it's kind of, you're going to be faced with a temptation. And I think part of me was um, not believing that I could go any further.
Yeah.
And maybe sort of like, but yeah, it was am I going to commit to the next part or am I not? I don't know, a bit of rebellion, maybe. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you were. You always question things.
Taking the edge of,
Yeah, you always question. I remember that. There was always why? Why? That was your favorite, one of your favorite
really?
questions. Yeah, you asked a lot of why questions. I remember that then. That makes it fun to work with someone because someone is invested, and it means they're invested in themselves. So
Yeah.
I was never worried that like you would not go on or whatever because, and this is the thing I've learned, and probably when we talk about what you do, because I'm very interested to share that with people as well. But there's like this thing with people when you work with someone, you got to let them have their own process and you got to let them have their own struggles and battles and things. And that's actually when growth and things happen. And if
Yeah.
you try to guide them and hold their hand, it's not going to happen. But there was no need to
Mm.
hold your hand because A, you wouldn't allow that. And B, like you held your own hands, which was always very interesting to
Mm.
see in that process. And you started holding
Mm.
hands even more, even in the moments where you were doing things you might not have liked that you did, which is something I still remember how you
Mm.
reflected on that, which was really, really,
Mm.
it's really cool to see.
Thanks, Nathan. Yes. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's a bit like running a marathon, isn't it? I've run one of those as well.
Oh,
I can remember in the marathon, I got to 18 miles, I think it was. And then I got this horrendous stomach cramp and I was like, I don't think I can go on anymore. And it's that test, are
yeah,
you gonna push through? Because you've decided. And I stopped running at that point, and I just thought I can't do this. I think I need to just
Yeah.
stop the race. And at that moment, somebody in the crowd looked at me and saw my name on my top, and she went, "Christian, keep going."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, goodness." And I was like, "Yeah, I will." And after she said that, I kept running, and I ran the whole way to the end,
There you go.
even with a cramp and everything. But it shows you the value of support.
Yeah.
If that support hadn't been there, chances are I would have listened to that wily ego that,
Yeah, yeah, that
"Oh,
little
come
voice
on, you don't,
whispering poison in
yeah,
your ear.
this is not good for you. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
not what you need to be doing.
yeah,
All that."
yeah.
Mm.
It's beautiful that you make the analogy with a marathon because that's about getting to the end at your own pace and making sure it's basically a sustained effort instead of a sprint.
Yes, good point. Yeah.
That's interesting. It's interesting that you went there. Hey, another question that I am really curious about. It's been 3 years. What's the biggest lesson you received from your juice fest?
I would say it is to trust your own gut, regardless of what anyone else thinks.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Mm. Don't be afraid to make decisions for you
Hmm.
that you think are in your own best interest.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's always hard to do.
Mm.
Yeah, but you have been doing
It
that.
can be hard, can't
Yeah, it can be hard. Yeah, yeah, I guess
it?
so.
Mm.
Especially because you mentioned that little ego voice. We all know that voice. That's always yapping in the background. It's never quiet. And then there's moments where it's quieting, like, oh, nice. And then it comes back. Um, that's a big one. That's a nice one.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
I think
I
that's
think especially when you've come from a bit of a background of disordered eating, people are
right.
going to be very um they can tend to be quite judgmental, especially family members.
Yeah.
And that can be a tough one. You become a bit of a people don't like it, and it's understandable. People don't like it when others change, because we everybody wants the system just to function so we can all just jog along. And I mean, we're all like that. It's a
Sure.
human nature.
Yeah.
And so, it's to be expected that when you do start making a drastic change like this, other people may need a bit of time and a bit of space to sort of adapt to it. And that's okay. It's not that they want you to, not be well or anything.
Hmm.
Sometimes people just need a bit of chance to adapt to what you're doing. But sometimes other people are just being difficult. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they just don't like it that you're taking charge of yourself and
No, I think because that puts their nose on the sore spot of where they want to change, and then rather than see you succeed, they rather just pull you down back to the thing. It's too painful.
exactly.
I also think it's interesting sometimes the people I didn't expect to support me supported me 100% in a way. Like during my juice fest, I had a girlfriend at the time. Um, she was so supportive. It was incredible. I had not expected that level of support, especially because you're close and intimate. And then yeah, even my mother eventually and my stepfather, my brother supported me big time. So I think there's both sides, but you do reach that point, and I believe you're in five. I still remember this. Like there will come a point where they realize, like, oh wait, she's not dead yet. She's still alive. She can actually keep doing this. Oh my God, she's actually oh,
Actually, she's
do
looking
it.
really well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's always that funny moment, right? Like we talked about that too, where like there will come a point where they start complimenting you, and then they can't make the 180 anymore because they compliment you. And they
Mm.
basically logically they put themselves in a dead point where they're like they're like, yeah, you're looking great and it's amazing, but what you're doing isn't good for you. Hey, wait a minute.
Yes.
But then it's done. Like
It's like a compliment through gritted teeth, as they say. You're
exactly.
looking
Yeah,
really well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's funny. It is.
Mm.
You touched a couple times upon already, like the therapist, and you mentioned a couple things beautifully about the inner child. We talked about your relationship to food, and we also talked about like inner journey and healing journey and things. What a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't realize this too when I started mine, and I think a lot of people don't realize the depths it goes to. With fasting, you're basically taking away food. And you mentioned that beautifully as well. Like what you're going to do is basically be facing yourself. At a certain level, you're going to face yourself because you're not using certain things anymore to stuff things away. And you're also taking yourself in certain ways out of social situations. Like food is connected to so many things, like how we interact with people, how we interact with society. And you're going to be interacting differently, which leaves a lot of just you, and you're going to be facing that. Um, the interesting thing here is that you're then going to be facing everything that's underneath the hood. And you already mentioned like your previous relationship to food. Like all my clients who I work with as well, I make them understand like what's coming up and then make them trace as far back as they can underneath their relationship to food. Usually they can take it all the way back to childhood, and you mentioned that as well.
Yeah.
Then they discover things that happened back then that basically created certain situations, like you mentioned in your family with like your little girl, and like um, how her food basically became like a regulating parent for her. They discovered these things, and then they realized, hey, wait a minute, this is the foundation of my addiction. And the interesting thing is, and I'm not
Yes.
going to yap on. Here comes the question. You, of course, have done a juice fast, but you're also, and I have to say this right, you're a psychotherapist, a hypnotherapist, and a coach. So
Yes.
you have
Mm.
a bigger understanding of this entire process, and I'm just very interested, like, what is in your professional or your personal opinion, as you
Mm.
a lot of
Mm.
healing and work on yourself as well, what is this actual inner work about, and what does it even mean
Yeah.
to face yourself when it comes to these
Yeah.
things?
Yes. It's such a beautiful process, Nathan. It is so stunningly beautiful. And I think, a lot of people approach it with trepidation, thinking, oh my God, I've got to force myself to see the worst of me. And it's not that. I would say for me, it hasn't been a facing myself. It's actually been an embracing myself. And I guess, look, the way I look at this is,
Mhm.
you know, when you're detoxing, you're doing a juice fast, whatever, you're trying to remove the acidity from the body. You're trying to get rid of all the toxic stuff, right? And then the work I do is similar because trauma creates acidity in the body. And how that happens is, you know, say in childhood, like you're saying, you go back to the cause of your food issue or whatever it is, you will find that there are certain moments from childhood that are traumatic experiences for you. And you'll know the ones that you'll probably have a whole range of main ones that kind of pop up, when you're tracing things back a lot. Um, now, how I describe this is the traumatic event happens. Now, the child is flooded with feelings that it doesn't know how to manage.
Mhm.
It doesn't even know how to make sense of them. So it desperately needs that parental figure to step in and notice the distress, uh, to come alongside the child and to be inquisitive about, oh gosh, you look a bit worried. Is everything all right? So tell mummy what's going on for you.
Mhm.
And the child then is able to share about its feelings that it doesn't know what to do with. And the parent then is able to come in and instead of even fixing it, the parent is able to simply empathize and validate those feelings by saying, oh, darling, I can understand you'd feel like that. Yes, when I was on my phone for an hour just now and you were in your bedroom and I can understand you might think that I've left you or that I wasn't here. Gosh, I'd feel the same way. Um, oh, well, I'm so sorry you experienced that. How about would this be better if next time I'm going to be on a long call, um, I let you know,
Mhm.
or something along those lines to kind of help the child feel that mummy's still there.
Yeah.
So that's a healthy way of helping a child process traumatic experiences. They feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel safe and supported. Like mummy's got this. She can manage and handle, and she gets it. Now, what happens when we come from dysfunctional, although that word for me doesn't quite fit because all families function, just some of them are a bit bonkers in their functioning.
Yeah.
So, you know, for want of a better word, dysfunctional families predominantly are marked by emotional neglect.
Hmm.
So children are abandoned in their feelings. They don't know what to do with these, all the feelings, all the interpretations, all the beliefs about what's going on. So what do? As you know, they have to find relief somehow. And the only way that they can do this is to take those experiences, the trauma that they are experiencing from the conscious mind, and stuff it, push it down into the subconscious. And the subconscious is the body. The subconscious mind and the body is the expression, it's the manifestation of the subconscious mind. So these traumas are stored then, the body keeps the score, as acidic memories,
Hmm.
or the way I would say it is I'm going on a bit here, so please stop
Go
me
on,
if
go
it's
on,
too
go
much,
on.
but in that moment of trauma, the brain of the child takes a snapshot, like a photograph, takes a photograph of this event, but it's not just a photograph, it's the feelings as well that are associated with it. And I'm going to say this, the truth that it doesn't want to see. Okay. And this photograph, it pushes down into the basement and puts it in a box and it stays there.
Okay.
But then over time, what happens is psychologically, because it hasn't found relief, it's going to have to find some way to find relief still. So you turn to addictions, whatever.
Yep.
But also, what's going to happen is you're going to have repetition compulsion. You're going to be re experiencing similar trauma experiences that are actually the gateway to trying to find that relief, the processing that your parent never gave you, but often serve to only compound the trauma because you still don't know how to process it.
Yeah.
And so you can see how this vicious cycle of stuffing down acidic, traumatic memories create an acidic environment within the mind and the body. And then when you start to do a juice fast, you can imagine what
Yeah.
begins to happen.
Yeah. I've never heard an explanation like that, but if I ever had heard that before, I had done my juice, or even about addiction, it would make a lot of sense. Would
Yes.
you then say, when you explain all of this, this is like this covers like four more questions I had, so this is great. Like, would you then say that because all this stuff is stuffed down, and whenever something happens in our life that triggers a related feeling or sensation or emotion to that, we relive
Yes.
it and then we try to stuff it down again, and this keeps repeating and repeating?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and that's how the multi-generational trauma gets
Mhm.
transmitted because nobody's been able to find the relief.
No.
Nobody's been able to process it. And the parents hand it on to the children, hoping they're going to do it.
Yeah. And that they do that
So we have to
subconsciously.
find a way of being able to process this.
Wow, this ties so well in with like a quote I found, like, and this quote, it really hit me. I found it online recently, like when you're going through social media or something, and sometimes you find something like, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
It says the healing process reminds us of what to become aware of and what is asking to be healed, witnessed, and felt in order to move on without compulsively repeating the past. And I was gonna ask you about this quote, like, could you
Yes.
explain? But you already did. But
High five.
that's basically it. So, but once you hit one point of your life with that, you start to realize there's so many areas that are affected by this, not just with food or addiction or whatever, or for example, I don't know, compulsively buying things or always choosing the wrong partner or always choosing, well, the wrong partner, but always choosing a partner that repeats specific things, or I don't know, self-sabotaging yourself in a way so that you recreate this. And so it's basically always consciously or subconsciously repeating something in order to have it hit that spot so that you might. That's it. Okay.
To open that box, to
Yeah.
open up the box. And you see, the thing is, what happens, Nathan, is at some point, because of all the repeat experiences, it's
Mhm.
not just that one or two or three boxes from childhood that are the key ones.
Yeah.
They've been piled up with other boxes.
Mm.
And so you're up to your neck with boxes
Yep.
of snapshots, justifying all the beliefs and all the interpretations you took on. And then the body begins to speak.
Yeah.
The body begins to express, its distress.
Yeah.
Quite like that. It's
Yeah.
express its distress.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, on the hospital in London, a famous hospital, the Maudsley Clinic.
Mm.
Henry Maudsley founded it, and on the wall he wrote there, um, the emotions, no, the sadness which cannot find expression in tears will cause other organs to weep.
Oh, wow.
And this is it. You've got the stored sadness, and there's an inner child in you that is crying out literally through your body. And people think their body is against them. Your body's on your side.
Yeah.
Your body's speaking. Your body's got your back. It's trying to help you get what you want, which is to be free, to find relief,
Yeah.
but in a way that's not going to be destructive to you.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Could you repeat that line of that hospital again?
Sure. The sadness which cannot find expression in tears
Mhm.
will cause other organs to weep.
Wow. That's a powerful one. And literally other,
Beautiful,
wow,
yeah.
that's beautiful. It makes the link. It
Yeah.
reminds me of this one picture where you have like four heads, and one of them is an angry man. The other is
Mm.
even angrier man. Then there is a crying man, and then the face is away, and you see a boy crouching with his back towards and crying. Like um,
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
anger we have is actually grief in disguise.
It is. It is. And this is the what we have to get to, in my humble opinion, um, in order to truly in order to truly find relief.
Yeah.
But it's not what people think. It's not just a finding and releasing the feelings. It's about going back and, in my view, revisiting,
Hmm.
then accompanying the child like that good parent. What is it you're feeling? What is it you're going through? But there's a difference here, because the work I do is with people that come from highly dysfunctional families,
Yeah.
Narcissistic parents in particular. That's my specialism.
Hmm.
That's a different kettle of fish to perhaps traumatic experiences from a sort of good enough family, which, everybody has some trauma from childhood.
Yeah.
These two things have to be differentiated because the process of healing is different.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's where I have my expertise,
Yeah.
because it's yeah, I won't go into all the details, but this is very important in the healing work. It's not just about letting out the sadness. It's also about having somebody be able to call out, in this scenario, the misinterpretation,
Yeah.
but in this scenario, validating the interpretation. And that can be painful. It can be
Oh, yeah.
hugely painful,
Yeah.
because you have to see clearly. You come to a moment of acceptance.
No.
Mm.
Well, I've been doing this work for years now as well with things from my past and childhood, and Um, the interesting thing is, like, you mentioned an onion before. There's so many layers to it that and you mentioned before as well, like this is going to take a lifetime, and I'm very convinced that's the case.
Yes.
Keep growing and
Yeah.
expanding, but um, there is a almost bittersweet feeling in going back to these things and re-experiencing the things that you maybe experienced as a child, or that you stuffed away, and then you experience them, and then you recognize these deeper and deeper and deeper layers. And the more you express about it, the more you start to understand what actually happened. And the more I'm able to understand it and basically
Mm.
process it and accept it, I can release it too, and it's not dragging. I'm not dragging it with me anymore, like something tied to me, like 45 pounds or 20 kg, like dragging around all the time. Like you,
Yes.
you have to be willing to go there and do that work, and that's a beautiful
And
thing.
it's not always, it's not that we have to do, years and years of grueling,
Oh no.
oh, traumatic work. It's not that at all. It's simply it's quite a beautiful process, actually. It's a process of getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more wonderful than that. And actually of creating this connection with your inner child. It is just stunning sometimes, I feel more connected as the years go by, and I get to know her more and more. And I'm proud of her, It's such a wonderful thing. I've gone from shame of her to pride.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, yeah, and it's an
Mm.
amazing, beautiful thing. And you basically have to start parenting yourself where you weren't parented.
Yes, yes, you do. At the end of the day, that is it, because we're all still seeking the parent to come in and see us and give us relief,
Yeah,
and validate us.
yeah,
But really, at the end of the day, we can get that through different people. We can get hints of that, and we can experience bits of it, especially in therapy. That's the point of it.
mm,
But ultimately, the empowering part is when you give it to you.
yeah,
That's when you come back to life.
yeah. That goes back to before we hit record what you said. Remember when we talked about a couple things? You said like outside is just reflection of inside. You're not going to find it outside, only inside.
No, 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 you're not. That can be a help, and it can give you some sense of relief, but the true deep relief has got to come within those core basement memories, as I call
Yeah, 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 yeah. But
them.
just with everything in life, like you're not going to find it outside of yourself. It starts inside,
No,
everything. And I think
yeah.
something when you do anything where you abstain from things, whether that is abstaining from ignoring
Mm.
yourself, stuffing things down, abstaining from food, abstaining from bad behaviors or whatever, it's like literally just going inside, and that's where the magic happens.
It is. It is. I was saying to someone the other day, like, doing a detox or putting down an addiction. I said, just be prepared for a blast from the past, because that is what happens. We're going to be, we're going, we're letting out, and then it's not something to be afraid of. This is the healing happening in you, and it's what you're asking for. Um, mm,
Well, hey, about all these boxes, right? They're piled up high, they're up to your throat. You mentioned that you help people. Could like
mm,
I'm sure a lot of people are dealing with these things too, and I know a lot of people who've done, for
mm.
example, what I work with, have endless juice fest, but they never touch this little thing, and then they think it's a little thing, but it goes
Yeah,
deeper and deeper, deeper. And
yeah.
um,
Mm.
what exactly, like shortly and just very summarizing, like what is it that you do with people, and how do you work with them, and how can people find you? Because you're active online as well. You're making like I still watch your videos. You make so many videos like online. You post them everywhere. Like,
Yeah,
what is it that you do?
yeah,
How do you work? And how can people find you? And how can they
yeah,
come?
yeah. I'm so grateful to do this work. It's my passion. For me to sit here and say that, Nathan, it almost brings me to tears to say, how can people connect with me? Uh, yes, how I work is what is on both the conscious and the subconscious, because the subconscious is the basement, it's the boxes.
Yeah.
And so I work with people. I've put together a course. The first one is the self-image course, and we go back and we uncover the negative self-image that you took on in childhood. So whatever issue you're dealing with, we weave that into the work we do on the subconscious. And really, I'm just a facilitator. I'm like you said earlier, a witness
Yeah.
that comes alongside.
Mm.
And it's so powerful because in hypnotherapy, we do what you would do in maybe 6 months, a year, probably, yeah, more than 6 months, in a
Uh,
year in talk
big.
therapy, you
Yeah.
know. And the thing is, it keeps working. It's really something that creates a great momentum in people's lives.
Yeah.
And it can get to grips with some of the main traumas that have triggered the others.
Yeah.
So you find some relief in those, which already has a knock-on effect.
Mm.
Of course, the work is not finished; it never is. But we're not always stuck in with the most awful, you know, experiences. Those we can process, and that's what I do with clients.
Interesting. So if I
But
understand
I
it,
also have tools that I give people as well that I've created. I've got three now. So one is on being triggered and understanding why you've been triggered.
mm,
The second one is on mirroring. So the outer world mirroring back to you, whatever it is that you perhaps can't see, maybe a bit of shadow work coming into that.
yeah.
And then the third one now is about this going back to memories, but being able to validate, which is key in my understanding. It's that validation part that's missing in a lot of work, validation of the truth, which many of us deny. That's part of the stuffing down in childhood, is the denial, so that we don't see what we've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one, yeah. So if I understand it correctly, it's basically like identifying themes and basically tracing them back to ground zero, if you will, the basement with all the things and what's going on are the major pinpoints. And then you help people with um, sort of reliving these in a structured way with the hypnotherapy, which is what I've done as well. Like hypnotherapy is amazing. And then it's about basically shattering the images that you have attached to that and these convictions you have about yourself that um, basically are
Yes.
nothing to do with you.
Yes. They often, if you come from a narcissistic family background, they're going to be projections.
Yeah.
So it's, you're projected onto.
Mm.
Uh, you're also, if you're from a narcissistic family background, you're also in a role that maintains the family system.
Mm.
So we need to know what role you're in. We need to know what the projections are and from whom. And when I say projections, I don't only mean negative projections, I mean positive ones too,
How so?
because the narcissistic parent doesn't see you. They only see an extension of themselves, and they determine whether that's going to be their positive traits or their negative traits. You don't have any say in that. So we need to separate you from those projections. But part of that work now is to really go in and clarify that for the inner child, but also to validate their this makes my work different, is to validate the red flags that they saw in childhood
Yes, so that they
that they
didn't
didn't want to see.
release. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So in
So
general,
that's what makes this a bit different.
in general, it's basically just revisiting the inner child and actually like, no, this actually did happen and this wasn't cool and this wasn't okay and
Yes.
helping the
Yeah.
child process it
Yeah.
and going back to those feelings again and making it loose
Yes.
from whatever is chaining it to the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And when you do that on the subconscious, it's quite incredible because the subconscious responds to us It doesn't have the capacity to take actions on it on its own. So it's only always responding to the pictures and words and feelings that we send it, and it gets to work on those. So if we have these trapped snapshots, pictures, it's going to be creating those because it responds to the pictures and words and images we have of ourselves.
Like a
So
repeat.
we have to go back in and
Yeah.
get the snapshots out
This is
and
so
the image.
this is so interesting because I applied many of these things with what I do in my program with my clients and stuff, where I make them basically trace it all back to childhood and then have main themes
Yeah,
of multiple things and start seeing like in which ways am I,
great.
et cetera, et cetera. And I know a couple of my clients also work with you because I recommended your work like during their
Mm,
test, and they had some very,
mm,
very positive effects. And their addictions basically
yes.
went poof because they realized I'm not addicted. Physically,
Mm,
you can be addicted, of course, but emotion, I'm literally just trying to stuff away what I'm not trying to feel. And
yes.
um, the transformation saw within that they were amazing. They were amazing.
Yes, because the subconscious mind always holds the subconscious mind is always going to do what it thinks is going to keep you safe
Mm,
and alive on the planet. And the inner child believes that it's got to keep things as they are. It's got to hold on to its substitute parent, because if it lets that go, it's not going to find any relief.
yeah,
So some people can find a bit of a battle going on when they start a juice fast, and they can be yo-yoing going on because that inner child's like, I can't cope with this. You've taken away my parent, and I've got nothing
yeah.
to substitute.
And that's the thing. This is beautiful that you said it because I tell my clients like there's comfort you have projected onto food, and this food is now projecting comfort back onto you. And when you start separating this is existential crisis for you on certain levels. Because now
Yeah.
you're basically just taking away one of the only ways that you have to
Mm.
emotionally regulate or deal with life.
Mm.
And you feel naked. You feel, oh, look, we have balloons. We feel,
That's so cool.
yeah, that's an Apple feature. I think you can also do thumbs up. But
I've seen it. Oh, great.
I don't know how to turn it off, but whatever. But yeah, that's interesting. So how can people get in touch with you when they would like to know more about you or talk to you or even work with you?
Sure, Nathan. So I'm on Instagram. They can follow me on Facebook.
Hmm.
Christiana Davidson MA is my name on.
I'll link everything up.
And then I have a website, www.delightin you, with the letter U.
I'll
And
bring.
that's what the work is all about, bringing light into you so that you can delight in you,
Wow.
as God delights in you. And you can also find me on YouTube,
Hmm.
especially if you're interested in the narcissistic family system. That's what my YouTube channel is about, really.
There's a lot.
And that is also at Christiana Davidson, or rather just look up
Matter. I'll,
Christiana
I'll link I'll
Davidson
link it all
MA.
below so they can find you. I'll link it all below. But
Great. Okay.
you have some good stuff out there, like and that's also where they can contact you on
Thank you.
Calendly or something, right?
Yeah, so you'll see if in fact I'll put my Calendly link as well. If anyone wants a free consultation, half an hour free consultation, you can book yourself in for that. And you can see if it's the right thing for you, or
Yeah.
at least, even having a consultation sometimes can help bring more clarity
Yeah.
about the next step for you. And you never feel pressured by a consultation. You're coming to discern, and I'm there discerning as well and listening. Um, but yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that because the one thing I wanted to also tell to everyone is you're doing important work. This is very
Oh,
important
thank you, Nathan.
work, and I
It
know
is actually.
it is like I know we can't disclose much about it, but I've eventually worked with you too, and
Yes.
it was an amazing experience. And it's so funny because you became my client, and then I became your client, and then we just work like
Yes.
these synchronicities always happen in life where something comes at the right moment. Like, for example, you mentioned
Absolutely.
your juice fest came at the right moment, like mine came. And then the right moment came for me to do
Mm.
some work with you. And like these things always, like you said, like when you listen to that inner calm voice and everything comes together. And I believe this
Yeah.
interview, I've been thinking about it for a while, but the moment, this was the moment. But the work you do,
Mm.
it really is delight in you. So I really wanted to also share
Mm.
that with people that if they feel
Thank you.
doing work like this, like your YouTube channel alone is like so many videos and so many subjects, like it's really
Mm.
informative. So if anyone's out there, please check it out if you're dealing with any of these things.
Mm.
Finally,
And
Christine,
I'd like to say,
go ahead,
for
go ahead.
you, Nathan, I mean, just to plug you a little bit, on your on this, you are an incredible juice fast mentor. And I think you bring to this something that very, very few do in the raw vegan world. You bring not only your own journey, which you have gone so full into over the years. You have so much experience, but you've also got this other side to you that gets the kind of psychological process that's going on. So it allows you to support clients in a way that some may not be able to. So if anybody is thinking of doing a juice fast, I can highly recommend Nathan. And I'm not just saying that, I wouldn't be doing this interview today otherwise, because, somebody else might not get the conversation that we've just had. Um, so thank you, Nathan.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Christiana. Thank you.
Mm.
That was the thing that we talked about, like just to talk.
Mm.
Mm,
Yes.
just to talk. Hey, final thing. Is there anything you would still like to share with people that we haven't touched upon or talked about, or anything you would like to say that you haven't said yet?
I would say if you're in a place where you feel hopeless,
Hmm.
you think, I don't know how I'm ever going to get out of this. I don't know how I'm ever going to heal. I don't believe I can. That's okay. All you need is the willingness to consider that you might be able to, that there might be a way. And that's enough.
Wow, powerful. That's just beautiful. And then the way will appear when you believe.
Mhm.
Yeah. But sometimes we need to lose the way to find it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. Christiana, thank you for today. I really enjoyed it.
Me
This
too.
was a great
It's been
chat.
great.
Yeah. If
Thanks for suggesting it.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here, and maybe one time we can do it again, and then go even deeper into like other
Mm.
things or your experiences with
Sure.
this work, because this work is
Mm.
very important and
Mm.
it's cool because it ties in with juice fasting and everything. But I really believe that
Mm.
this deep inner work and this healing journey we all have, we basically all have the same wound. We have the same type of wound. We just have
Yeah.
we have a different we have a different suit, a different version of it that was created under different circumstances. But we're all dealing with the same stuff. And when we realize that and we heal that, we understand
Yeah.
so much more. And this is really the work.
Mm.
This is
Mm. Mm. Yes, it's all the same, but it's very important that it's unique as well, that it is your story and it is your wound and it's not the same as somebody else's. Like my juice fast was not the same as somebody else going on theirs. Yours is very special and very sacred.
so beautiful. Okay. Okay, we're going to stop it here before we ramble on. We could probably ramble on for another hour.
I know.
Sienna, thank you. It was a delight, and
Thank you.
so it shows on with your delight in you. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Nathan.
All right, everybody watching here, all the links to reach out to Christiana are below. You'll find a bucket load of other videos there, as well as the Food Freedom Masterclass for when you're dealing with food addiction and you've been doing juice fasting over and over again. You really want to know how to connect these two things that we talked about, and then make sure that you get it over with and done, and only do it once. What the fuck did she leave?